You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, as you can see, I still have the cold from yesterday. I'll probably have a cold for a while. Colds just don't go away. And when you're sickly, you think, I'll never be better again. And have Sam Ross here.
Hello.
And he brought his healing oil with him, so I'm hoping that'll help.
I always carry it with me.
It's
always
right here in my bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how about you, Josh? You sickly today, or are you doing good?
Outside of a little allergies, I'm doing pretty okay.
I don't know if it's allergies or a cold, but I know Robin was very sick and whatnot. And I must have picked up a little of it. I wasn't as sick as she was. My goodness. She's only now getting better, so it was tough. But that being said, we're going to talk to Sam Ross here about not just what's going on at First Baptist for Christmas in the church itself, but also what's going on with church in America, because I read a really good article today in the Washington Post about how a lot of people, not far from his age, you are about 34?
34 exactly.
Right. You know, from the 18 to 30 group, how many of them have just left, not just left church, but left the faith. And so we're going to talk a little about that and what First Baptist wants to do and has been doing to try to re-engage those people, because there's a reason why they're leaving. It isn't just because they're, a bunch of heathens. It's nothing like that. It just, there's something that's going on that's causing this disaffection, and we need to find out what it is, right? And we can probably guess what some of it is. But anyway, we're going to talk all about these things, and just in general, if you don't have Christmas Eve plans, you can certainly find a place at First Baptist, and we have that. Okay, so
absolutely.
Let's talk about the sponsors, though, because they make this all possible. And sorry, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to try to avoid doing that during the mic. Anyway, Our Place Restaurant, a great place as always. They got the Christmas decorations up, and it's lots of fun, and they got Christmas-oriented desserts or whatever else. Also, if you want a pie for Christmas dinner or whatever, you better order it now. Well, at Thanksgiving, they had a lot of people at the last minute order, and they had a couple left over, fortunately, to take care of that. But I'm just saying, if you really want to make sure you have one, you better jump on that real quick. Also, thank you, Gina's Pizza, of course. You got to take the kids there. Have you ever been to Gina's Pizza?
Once. Loved it,
yeah. Well, I really like it because you can go there, and it's you listen to all the good music. I like that kind of blues music. Also, the pizza's great, and also I had that Chicago dog for lunch about 10 days ago, and it's really good.
I heard they had a chess club on Tuesdays.
They do. Chess club.
I would love to join that.
Really? You like to play chess, do you?
Me and a couple of guys on staff all play together.
Well, Tuesday nights is where it's happening, and go get yourself I don't know, if you don't want a pizza so much, you can get a sub sandwich, or the meatball sandwich is really good, but take several napkins with it because there's a lot of sauce. Anyway. Also, thank you to our friend John Williams at Old Pro Roofing, 817-734-2756. About a week ago Saturday, we got hailed on a little bit. So have them check it out, because if you think, it wasn't that big a deal, or I don't see any damage on it, don't trust your own eyeballs. Get an expert to do it. And he'll come and tell you, and he'll say, no, your roof's okay. Or he'll tell you that, you need some minor repairs. Or he'll tell you need a new roof. And if you do, he'll help you with the insurance, which is going to be a hassle. He would tell you also, if you're thinking, well, I'm going to keep waiting until there's really significant damage, if you wait over a year between reported events, it may just decline you. So you better be on top of that. 817-734-2756. Also, Jeff Kelly over at the Weddington Agency, 817-781-0546, or Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. He knows all about Burleson and Johnson County real estate. Now, you live in Burleson, but Joshua Schools, right?
Correct.
Boy, there's a lot of people could say that now, because that's where the growth is. Mm-hmm. When I was talking to the superintendent about a month ago, they were talking about, they're going to need to expand, and almost all of it's going to be in Burleson seat limits, which is irritating our mayor, but there you go. Because now we're on the hook for all the infrastructure, but that's where the growth is. And anyway, so he knows all about it. And also, I'd like to have somebody that knows the lay of the land, because if you go out there in the country and you think, this is a nice piece of property, you might find out you're in a floodplain or something like that. Or you'll find out, I thought I was in this school district. No, you're in that one. And that kind of thing. So he knows all about that. 817-781-0546. So, one last one. Somebody you may know, Rich Hooper at The Journey, 88.3. And he's always hustling to try to expand their listenership. It's a nonprofit, tax season's coming up. You want to donate to this, it'd be great. It's not like I mentioned, not a for-profit thing. They don't have advertisements. So you donate, they'll give you a good shout out. They do that for me. And so 88.3 The Journey. So check it out. All right. Where shall we start? Well, anyway, back to the article I was talking about, the Washington Post article. It talked about how since 2007, we've gone from about 75% to about 56% of people in the younger age brackets that still claim some sort of affiliation with the church.
Correct.
Why do you think that's gone down so much? I mean, that's a significant drop.
I know there's 4 different categories of people that are in that age group that have either some kind of spiritual affiliation or no spiritual affiliation. The 4 categories are like unaware, just the people who have never been in church, never went to church, parents didn't go to church, they didn't grow up in that culture. Then there's a group who maybe occasionally attended, then kind of fell away as they grew older.
Right.
And they have the never agains who grew up in church, got hurt by something, spiritual abuse, maybe fed up with hypocrisy. I mean, my assumption usually whenever somebody walks away from church is that they had a valid reason to. Like they saw something, heard something, taught, then saw something in action that was against what was taught.
Right.
And therefore walked away. Then you have another group that would be your militant atheist that has never been a part of the church, or maybe at one point was, but now is not only walking away from church, but they're actively attacking and trying to discredit the church.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the angry atheist demographic in that 18 to 30 years old who, for whatever reason, have never seen any value within the church. Not only that do they not believe in God, but they actively try to undermine the church because they believe it is a net negative to the culture. And
That really, it surprised me a little bit, because if I don't believe in something, I would probably just ignore it. I don't believe in Islam, but I don't go around trying to do anti-Allah type activities, right? I didn't take any of my time. So, but that's their problem. I think a lot of these people that are angry about God would kind of fall in that category you talked about, is that something had happened to them, and they were brutally disappointed. And from what they saw, or something happened to them directly, I know several people that fit that category. I'm not going to get too personal, but I know people that had things happen to them, and the church didn't respond in the best way, or not in the way that they wanted. Even if the people meant well, they didn't respond in a way. Those that are walking away, they really wanted to, be helped.
Yeah,
they wanted something different, better, closer, and they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then you get some, we've talked about this, we've grown up in church all our lives, and we've seen churches that have turned their backs on some people because they fell short in some manner. I don't know, you fill in the blank, whatever falling short is. And they said that, they basically got the boot.
Yeah.
And they never come back because they feel like that's the way it always is. That's the way Christians are. As far as that category of people that just basically just kind of drift off because they don't want to deal with it or fool with it, that's one thing. But the ones that have been actively, like you called it, spiritually abused, those are the ones that probably need to be reached again, I would say. Yeah. Because if the church never did anything to cause that to happen, then they need to make good on it. They need to repair that. And I don't know, sometimes they're not willing to listen to it anymore, but you got to make that effort.
Yeah. I think whenever it comes to these conversations, like we can try to analyze the people that are leaving and the reasons why. And I think we need to. But my standpoint for them is one, to completely validate those reasons for them, in the sense of like, hey, you had I believe most of them had a good reason for leaving. And I think there could be good reasons for them to return as well. But what I want to do is take a good look at the church, specifically our church right now. Is like, what is something that we are maybe doing, or what is a part of our modern liturgy even that is causing people to be disenfranchised with the church. And I think one of those issues is that we had this conversation before we started, like we had a change in music style from the 70s to the 80s to now. And it became much less congregational and much more rock show type concert.
Performance based, yeah.
Performance based. And I don't have any issues with a certain genre of worship. I love contemporary music. I love traditional music. I think they both are great. But I think that part of the issues that spring up from more of a concert style worship is that it becomes much more individualistic, and the church can be built on the personality of a worship leader or a lead pastor who's in the pulpit every single Sunday, doesn't give opportunities to anybody else. And I'm very thankful that's not our church at all. We have a pastor that shares the pulpit and is dedicated to helping people like me and other pastors on staff grow. But we have a lot of churches where they are completely built on the personality of a single individual. And whenever that individual messes up, we've got multiple examples of churches in our area where massive congregations, the lead pastor has a massive moral failing, and people get disenfranchised.
Yeah, and a lot of people that are outside it look at what like happened at Gateway and things like that. Said, "See, I told you," or "That's typical," or who, of course, And as far as some of these others that've been accused of things, I would say one thing, kind of as a caveat. It's easy to be accused when you're a high profile. That doesn't mean they're guilty.
Correct.
Doesn't mean that they're actually involved in what they've been accused of. But I think you get some pastor like T.D. Jakes, for example, got accused of things. Until I see evidence, like real evidence, I'm going to take his word for it, because the body of his work in other places would show sincerity and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I think all these situations require wisdom and insight and discernment. And the way that the news and social media reports on it, there's not room for that. And it causes confusion, hurt, and chaos.
What I would wish I could tell some people like that, if they're willing to listen, and said, if you had a bad experience at this church, it doesn't mean that that's what the gospel stands for. That's what the scripture stands for. That's because some Christians either misapplied or misunderstood or ignored these things doesn't mean that the gospel itself is faulty or flawed. The gospel is, well, let me put it this way. For most people, we've heard this all our lives. We are the church to the community, or we are the Christians, we are the body of Christ, and all that. But it doesn't mean in my personal failure, doesn't mean that the gospel itself somehow is faulty.
Right.
And I think a lot of people make that assumption. And that's what I would try to tell people. Who we got here? Somebody first, from my time as a missionary, I can't read the name. Ben Nickel. Okay, from my time as a missionary, only met a couple of true atheists. Most had some sort of negative experience with the church or religious person / group. But I 100% agree with Sam. Did you graduate with Ben Nickel? Are y'all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought
Ben
y'all
Nickel
did.
for sure. What's up, Ben?
Yeah, and so I've talked to a couple of people. Said, well, I was at a church and then this happened and they turned their back on me, or there's a bunch of hypocrites and all this other stuff. Or they, and also another thing about it is there are a lot of people that feel like they don't have a place in church because of their lifestyle issues. The gay and lesbian community be one, or divorced community, or maybe they made mistakes earlier in their life and have a criminal record and don't feel like they're going to be welcome there, and all this other stuff. And in my day, so to speak, the church wasn't asked to try to minister all these various communities. But that doesn't mean it's a good thing. But I'm just saying it wasn't.
Yeah.
We had youth activities, we had old folk activities, and then, we had the softball team, whatever. But as far as now, the church is being asked to minister to all these different communities, and it's not easy. And it's not easy to do that and still maintain a commitment to what you think the gospel is.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, I don't agree with that part of the gospel. Sometimes those are the hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, they'll say, what's a good way of putting it? I don't agree with this part of the gospel. Therefore, if you want to see me, you need to accommodate that. Well, no, Jesus was not really that much of an accommodationist. I mean, he was pretty clear. And there you go. So there you go. Now, hello from Cleveland, from Aaron Ash. He's a very consistent listener. Thank you, Aaron, for dropping by. And that's a hard part, because sometimes you have to, say, no, well, this is the gospel as we understand it, and we can't change it to fit every situation.
Yeah.
And that's a hard conversation.
Something I was thinking about on the drive over here is, there's a big merger between Netflix and Warner Brothers right now. And I was thinking about, like, there's a lot of people concerned about it because it's going to lead to a downfall of the cinematic experience and movie theater shutting down, and whatever consequences are going to happen from these media companies monopolizing. And it got me thinking about, like, the church in general. And like, we have the Catholic denomination, if you want to call it a denomination.
Well, they don't call it a denomination.
No, they do not.
Okay.
There's like 1.4 billion people that are affiliated with Roman Catholicism. I think in the Protestant denominations, which there are thousands of, there's 600 million to about 1 billion. They're not exactly sure. It's hard to categorize who's who and what's what. But it's your Baptists, Methodists, Anglicans, Lutherans, all those people. And there's pros and cons to both ways of doing things. With the Catholics, they are very united. I mean, you see divisions and arguments about what the Pope's doing and the direction of the church and everything, but they are a unified front for the most part. And then you have the Protestant denominations, which every single year there's a new denomination that grows out of there. But the idea of ministering to all groups of people, I think the church can get itself in trouble by trying to be all things to all people. In the sense of, like, there are multiple churches in every single city, and if every single one of them tried to do a full broad scope of ministry to their community, they would spread themselves too thin for the most part. I like the idea that there are multiple denominations, those that claim Jesus at least, and within Burleson, and each one of them has a strengths and weaknesses, people that they reach out to, that they minister to. And I personally love that in our city that we have so many different churches reaching so many different people, that First Baptist Burleson does not need to be a place where every single person in our community will necessarily feel like, oh, that's the church that I should be going to. But there are multiple different churches. And so if you are looking for a place, I mean, I would love for everybody in our city, obviously, to come to First Baptist. But I know that we're not going to be the church for every single person.
Right. And it'd be not only, logistically impossible, but it just, when they say be all things to all people, when Paul wrote that, he didn't say that, well, to reach, the drug dealers, I'm going to become a drug dealer. That's not something silly like that,
Yeah.
And that's not what he meant. But I agree. I think there are churches that specialize, if you will, in certain communities that maybe First Baptist or others may miss or not really have a good setup for.
Correct.
And so, I'm thinking particularly the gay and lesbian community, because they want fellowship just as much as any other person does. And I think a lot of them feel like, well, I'm not welcome. Well, whether or not one thinks that their lifestyle is appropriate is not my call. It's between them and God. All right. And I don't claim to understand all about it. Okay. So I know First United Methodist does, has a good ministry for that. Yeah. For people that really probably are a little bit outside of what the typical community is, but that doesn't mean, that the people that feel like they're outside of church because of their lifestyle choices or because of what their orientations are or whatever else, it's good that they have a place they can go to. And whatever spiritual development and changes, if there are to be any, are made, well, that's a place to do them, right? Is a church. Yeah. My father-in-law, the old pastor, said there's not a bad reason to go to church. And I said, well, I know guys that go to church just to play softball. And he goes, well, yeah, but you may be able to pull them in, Well, I know guys that come to church because, they want to meet girls. Well, you'd rather them meet them on the street. I mean, that kind of thing. Yeah. So there's no bad reason to go to church. And I just hope that everybody feels like there's a church for them, that that would welcome them where they are, as opposed to, no, you need to make changes in your life before you can come sit in our pews.
Yeah.
That, oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't think the Almighty would be real good on that attitude.
No, and I would go on record saying that I think anybody in our city, in our community, would be welcome on a Sunday morning. Doesn't matter your lifestyle, who you are, where you're coming from. Like we are a welcoming church at First Burleson. We would love.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. It doesn't mean that, we our commitment to the doctrine and our faith is like open-ended. I mean, when we have very clear understandings of the gospel, who Christ is, what the Bible is, all that. And we're not going to, kind of kick that to the side just
Absolutely not.
to be, friendly. But on the other hand, I would hate to think, well, I don't, somebody would say, well, I'd like to go. I'd like to have a place to, worship God, but I don't feel like I fit in. That'd be terrible. It's just, and that's one, and as a former teacher, I saw a lot of that, and, because, these kids really were hurting, but they really didn't know where to go, that kind of thing. Yeah. And they felt like, well, the church is going to welcome me because, I smoke weed, or, I listen to this kind of music, or I dress like this. And, it's tough.
It's interesting. Even the militant, what we was referred to as the angry atheist, very, from the ones that I know and the things I've listened to online, very few of them are anti-Jesus in the sense of whenever they read the Gospels, they see the actions of Jesus going to the outcast, the prostitute, the tax collector, those who are on the outsides of, who's the in-group of his time. Jesus went to those who were excluded from those in-groups, and he healed the sick, he healed the blind, raised the dead. And there's very few who see that and disagree with who Jesus is in the sense of being benevolent, giving, loving,
the wise
teacher.
Yeah.
The issues that we see a lot with our angry atheist friends is the issues stem from systematic things within the church itself.
Here's one thing I want to say about the angry atheist is that the worst thing you could be is indifferent, not angry. The indifferent atheists are the ones that'd be, I think, hard to reach, because if they don't care, to say, hey, you do you, I'll do me, I don't care. It's a little bit different conversation, a little bit different approach when you deal with somebody that's hostile, right? And why are they hostile? There's got to be reason why, not just because something happened in their life or whatever, but they're, it's like, I know exactly the type you're talking about. People that are angry atheists, as you call them, they're angry for whatever reason, but it's like, if you really didn't believe in God, why are you angry? Why are you angry? Because if he doesn't exist, you got nothing to be angry about. You're at least not towards him if you don't believe in him. But to me, an angry atheist is like saying there is God and I'm mad as hell at him. All right? And so I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times I haven't been real happy with the Almighty, but it's probably because of my fault, not his. But still, we're human beings, and so
I personally, and I don't want to claim to know what anybody thinks. Whenever that category of people, when I contemplate them, the thought that comes to my mind is like the anger is towards the hypocrisy of the people that claim to follow God and claim to follow Jesus. And I think it's more towards the people themselves versus it's towards an organized religion versus God the Father, the way we think of him. Which again, it's fair that they would have issues. Like the church is not perfect. It's made up of people. My hope would be, as we've been talking about, the experience of one place is not going to be the experience of another church. And that I would hope that they would find, there's a YouTube channel I watch where an atheist will go to church service. He goes every Sunday to a different church and does a church audit. And, guy loves going to church. He likes being around people and he'll review them. And he's been to mega churches where he's like, hey, this was a great experience. I actually felt very welcomed here. People were very nice. And there's other places he goes where, hey, this actually is a cult. Here's all the reasons why. And he's just fascinated with religion, and it's refreshing for me to see that people who, I've had a view towards that category of atheist, of like, for whatever reason, like in my mind, the last 15 years of like, well, they are anti-God. Like so many of them are not anti-God. It is anti-structural organized religion for some reason or another. But yeah,
what's interesting is because there's a historical movement that I've been reading. That Christian atheists, if you will, they look upon what the Christian faith has done for civilization over the last 2 millennia, whatnot. There's a great book you ought to read. It's got written by a guy named Tom Holland, not the Superman, Spider-Man guy, not Spider-Man, but no, it's Tom Holland, called Dominion, and it talks about how, and he calls himself a Christian atheist because he says that all these things that we now have part of our civilization originate from the gospel. Okay, because you look at prior to the gospel, what a brutal world it was. It was terrible, nasty, it was awful. And so a lot of the things that we look at our civilization now, like the worth of the individual and things like that, come out of the gospel. And there's even a couple of well-known atheists, like Richard Dawkins says, well, I don't believe in God, but I believe that the Christian faith overall has been a positive for society and all this other stuff. I think they're kind of, to me, it's like they're taking the benefits of the gospel without embracing it.
Yeah.
Another one, a celebrity like Bill Maher. Yeah. You ever watch him?
I've seen clips, never watched the show.
I don't get HBO, but I got YouTube and I watch it. And sometimes, he's pretty harsh. And one time, one of those guests said, "Now look, Bill, all these things that you talk about come from the Christian gospel. Why are you so hassle about it?" "Oh, no, it came from the Enlightenment." And all this. No, it did not. The Enlightenment, no, it did not. And it came from really the Reformation and that kind of thing. And so, but that is a growing historical movement in terms of, historical studies. And it was just interesting because to this book, Dominion, I'm referring to, is talking about prior to that, the human being was worthless to anybody. I mean, no one, the individual person meant nothing. And then here comes all these other things and how you're supposed to treat people, with charity and, justice and, protection of themselves and their property and all these other things. I just think it's pretty fascinating. I just kind of wish he'd take the next step forward, but that's his problem, not mine. So,
yeah,
but anyway, that's what I've been seeing happen in the church is, it seems like as times have gotten hard and been hard, in my day, they would turn to the church. Now they turn away from it. And that's a difference, I think, in our society. When the 70s were tough. I mean, they were really bad. We think today is terrible, and there's a lot of problems. You get it. And, there's never going to be a period of time where it's all smooth and easy, but the 70s are terrible.
Violent crime.
Crime was much more violent crime. Divorce was much higher then. Drug use was higher then. Abortion was much higher then than it is now. The economy was in the toilet. We got Russians going everywhere and causing trouble and, that kind of thing. But, but my generation, and then going into the 80s, they turned to the church. This generation's like, we don't want to be bothered with it. They just want to let's leave us alone. And I think a lot of it has to do with social media. A lot of the decline that we see in church attendance and people that affiliate with Christianity, a big turn started in 2007. So there's a lot of statistics. That's when the study I read was comparing 2025 with 2007. I wonder what happened in that year that made such a pivotal point.
Yeah.
You never know.
There's MySpace. Yeah. That's what, MySpace and Facebook, Twitter, all those things like that. I think those were definitely contributing factors of the connectedness of people led to more disagreement than unity. But what I find interesting is whenever the 2008 financial crisis happened, those bad years, 2008, 2009, 2010, like you said, whenever hard times happened, people would turn to the church. However, the trend continues. Like a lot of those graphs that you see about church declining, they'll start in 2001 or 2007.
Right.
Depending on what denomination you're looking at and who's doing the research. But in 2007, you start to see that decline. It happens year over year. I wonder why in 2008, whenever people had great need, that we didn't see a increase in church attendance and people.
I can't answer that.
Yeah, I can't either.
I think some of it, if you were just going to take a stab at it, and we talk about social media, we blame social media for everything, but that social media is just a tool. I mean, this is social media. What we're doing now, we're able to talk about these things, and hopefully maybe somebody will get some benefit out of it. But we don't do things together anymore. You know, you were just talking earlier about that Netflix Warner Brothers merger, and you know, I haven't been to the theater in years. And I don't really care to because, you know, I wanted to see like the last Mission Impossible movie. And I said, I'll just wait till I can pay $2.99 and stream it and do so from my couch.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Or I think the last movie at the theater I went to was Jesus Revolution.
That came out 4 years ago?
It came out in 22.
Yeah.
And prior to that, it was a documentary I saw on World War I. And prior to that, it was that remake of True Grit. That tell you how
great.
long? Yeah, it's a great movie.
Great movie, yeah.
But how long ago it was?
Yeah.
And why? But you know, a lot of people watching church online. Maybe the only thing some people do if they're shut-ins or you know, the health issues or maybe.
And he was talking about how he was so jealous of people who go to church, and the reason why is because he said, "I would give anything to see my friends once a week."
Yeah.
Like I'm on tour all the time. I'm going to shows. Like if I get to see my friends, it's like once or twice a year, if that. And I would give.
It gets me out of the sack.
Yep.
And so, you know, because I want to see my friends. And you know, we do stuff together, both as a class and, you know, individually. And, you know, and a lot of people don't have that in their lives. And it's really kind of sad. And it seems like the younger generation just doesn't have that. You know, it also in our day, we wrote letters, you know, and when's the last time you wrote a letter? I mean, like not just a little card note or something like that. I'm talking about like a letter, you know.
2009?
Yeah, right. You know, and that's it. So that's the sad thing is that, and as an historian, it's bad because so much we learned about our histories through correspondence between, you know, put too much of a gloss over, you know, because we had heroes and bums in World War II. So, but the point is that if that happened to us now, I wonder if our society would ever rise up and unify and take care of business like we did in World War II. You know, what would happen? And yet, you know, when 9/11 happened, how old were you? About 8?
10.
10. Yeah. Okay. And I was teaching class still. And, you know, and briefly there was some unity there. And then the politics got involved, and there you go. You know, and it's like, no, we can't allow this to continue because the other party might get advantage, and therefore it all fell apart by 2004, 5. But I often worry about that because I just wonder if our society has the ability and the tools to as a whole had a cohesiveness to it that would kind of like a mutual understanding of Christian values, even if they differed on, you know, theologies or doctrines.
Right.
You know, I get asked this all the time about, is the Constitution a Christian document? I get asked this all the time about, is the Constitution a Christian document? And what I tell people is it's based on Christian virtues and values. It is not a document of theology or doctrine.
Correct.
But all the founding fathers, including those who are deists like Franklin, had a very
Jefferson,
they all understood that these values had to be part of the system. You know, Adam said that this Constitution is meant only for immoral people because only immoral people can enforce it. And he was your standard Anglican, you know, appropriate and proper. I don't know what his interior relationship with God was, but I mean, he was no Baptist. I can tell you that.
No.
So, but it just, I just those things are being eroded away. You know, the Constitution doesn't pick one interpretation of Scripture or the other, but I think anybody's interpretation is going to include worth of the individual, justice, you know, freedom of religion.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, all these things, the, you know, limited government and all this other stuff. And I just see all these things just kind of drifting away from us. So
what's the solution?
listen to me more often.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know because I really don't. It'd be easy to say, well, we need to go to church.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess, but I mean, there's more to it than that. And I think of all the people in the world, the United States probably has a higher standard of judgment levied against them because we get to for the most part choose our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is what we've been choosing the last 20 years, then we've kind of frittered that away.
Mm.
And as far as the solution, I don't have an answer. Would another crisis do it? I don't know. It's really just going to have to be a movement of the Spirit that really we can't make happen. I mean, we could, when I say make happen, we could, do what we're supposed to do as Christians.
Yeah.
Pray, witness, all the above, and try to live according to the gospel as best we can. All that will happen, but we can't dictate the timing of God's movement in a society. Yeah. And so I don't have an answer for you.
Well, I don't have an answer either, but we have a great marriage ministry at the church. Mm-hmm. We teach a class called Re-Engage every spring. Mm-hmm. It starts on January 21st. But one of the first tools that we teach people to help strengthen their marriage when it comes to this class is we give them 14 tools for a healthier marriage. And the first thing we teach them is to stay inside your own circle. So in other words, a lot of times when you hear how to communicate better, how to have more relational intimacy, mm-hmm. How to communicate expectations, the first thing that we tend to do is think of if my spouse would only get this, if only they would apply that to themselves, and everything would fix. But the solution that we tell people is, hey, if you are not focusing on yourself, in other words, staying on your own circle and applying these tools to yourself first, then you're not going to be able to help your marriage because you can't force anybody else to adopt these tools. And I think that for the church, for us as individuals, the best thing that place to start is inside our own circle.
That movie Fireproof kind of does that. Do you remember that movie?
I never saw it.
Well, Kirk Cameron came to our church about
2015, I think.
I don't
2014?
know. Well, it was when a movie came out.
Yeah.
Billy Beacham got him because they're old buddies. He's a lot shorter than I thought it'd be.
A lot of actors are.
Yeah. But anyway, I saw the movie, and it actually was kind of the theme of it. This guy, Cameron's character, basically was negligent in his marriage, and he wanted to. So he worked on himself for 40 days, and his wife really didn't respond very much until the very end. Mm-hmm. So, and it frustrated him greatly because he thought, I'm doing all these things for her, and she doesn't seem to notice. But that's good advice. So, you can't make them change like that. I can't say, if only she would do this, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. See, and it kind of leads to another question, because like I mentioned earlier, we had specialized services, if you will, for young people, for older people. But we didn't have the wide range of classes that we offer now. And it isn't just because we're so, generous. It's because we have to, because there's so many different groups out there that if we weren't trying to adapt and meet them, they'd be unchurched or they'd be left out, which is kind of the whole point we've been talking about. But we have divorce care kind of things. We have grief care for the widows and widowers. We have people that may have had other issues in their life and they're trying to rebuild their lives and things like that. I know we have programs for single moms. And we have programs for not just older folks, but people shut-ins and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And so, we're a lot more varied in our approach than we used to be. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, that goes back to that Jesus Revolution period. Yeah. Because they really expanded to youth activities and all this other stuff.
I think the church is at its best whenever it knows the needs of its community and adapts to meet those. Mm-hmm. You look at the 90s in Burleson, where we didn't have a great, youth basketball program. Yeah. Our church built a upward basketball. Yeah. We built a gym, and we started a program there. Now, Burleson has a great basketball program, and so it's not as needed anymore. but we've identified other places where people need
I
help.
was involved with Upward for about 4 years
Yeah.
as a coach and then as a parent, but I coached a couple of years for my son's team. And
Yeah, hundreds of kids were part of Upward basketball.
oh yeah, and we had softball back in the day. That was about it, and we had youth basketball, and we had sports, and all the. But see, that's what a church needs to be doing.
Yeah.
It isn't just here's the gospel, here's what the Bible says. It's so much more than that. I don't know if we do this anymore. I haven't been on Wednesday night in a while, but we used to have Wednesday night suppers when I was not just a kid, but into my almost early 30s.
Yeah.
And that was a good time.
Meal times from 5:30 to 6:30. Yeah.
All right. And we had a youth group in my high school days that I'm still close friends with those people, and they kept me out of so much trouble.
Yeah.
I had people that cared about me, so we didn't go around and getting drunk or smoking weed or anything like that. We'd play basketball, or we'd waste gas running around town, or one guy had a pool table and shoot some pool and that kind of stuff. And that sounds kind of boring to some kids, but I tell you what, I also didn't have to deal with the police. So,
yeah. One of the life group leaders, I'm the group's pastor at our church, and one of our life group leaders is a man named David Lehman.
Oh, yeah. Dave, of course.
Yeah,
he's
David
my
and Tammy
financial
Lehman.
advisor.
Yeah, he's great.
He's my Edward Jones guy.
I was at his house almost every single Thursday night in high school, especially before football games. We had him and his wife and their daughters would host cookie night. We would go over there and eat cookies, jambalaya. And one thing that he would do is if we memorized the Roman road, he would give us $100. And so any one of the kids who were over there who memorized those 5 verses in Romans, they would get, $100. I never did it.
He put money on the table?
He put money on the table. I never did it.
If he asked me to memorize 5 verses out of the Quran for $100, I would do it. So, you kidding me? Well, that's the layman's. Tammy was always big about having their family being the center of a lot of those activities, going to keep their eyes on their girls, which is a good thing. We had a family like that in my youth group days, and Mama Hall, we called her Carol Lee Hall, and we had all the stuff at her house. And I was real close friends with her daughter Silly, who passed away a few years ago. Which that was I saw that all the time. There was like that one family that's where the activities were. Yeah. And it kept us off the streets.
Yeah. I mean, three of the guys that were over at that house, those are 3 of my best friends to this day.
Who is it?
Ricky Estes, who's also with Edward Jones now.
Right.
Dayton Tanner and Shane Gillespie.
Oh, I know all of them.
Yeah. Great dudes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shane married, there you go. Shane married
Chelsea.
Very nice girl.
Yeah.
And I saw Dayton coming out of our place about our place.
That does not surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was 2 weeks ago, and we had breakfast with my Sunday school men, and I was coming out. It was about 7:45, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Allard," and I go, "I know who you are. Give me a minute." Oh,
he taught history for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's teaching shop class now, and he has a side business doing cabinets and.
And that didn't surprise me. He was very personable. I could see him being really good at making sales. So he was. And that's what I look back at y'all's classes, in my experience at BHS. I mean, I had a couple of knuckleheads and all this. Not every day was a, day out of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, but most days were good. And I had a lot of good kids. And I'm going to talk about this on Monday. I'm going to kind of give a plug Monday. I'm going to talk about some very disturbing things I've been reading about how people basically can't do math anymore. They're getting into college with like 3rd grade math skills and things of that nature.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got the data to show it, and I've been asked many times. You had a pretty good, successful teaching career. What was the number one reason why you were successful? And it's because I had students that let me teach. That's the reason.
Yeah.
All right, because I could have been the best teacher of all time and well prepared and all this other stuff, but if I didn't have a class that was going to allow me to present it to them, it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. So that's why I always consider myself one of the most fortunate teachers I know of. But I don't know, we got off the track a little bit.
That's okay.
It's okay. What are what are the Christmas plans? We got that early.
Oh, yeah,
Josh,
we
you
have a
still have
slide for
that? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, Christmas Eve. So if you are looking for a place, or if you've been looking for a church to join, I think a Christmas Eve service is a great first step. We have a modern and traditional venue at the church. Modern on the east side of campus, traditional on the west side. They're all really, really well done. But our modern services are going to be 3 and 4, traditional at 5 and 6. And the only difference between these two services is going to be the style of music.
Right.
Like they're all going to be candlelit. They're all going to have the traditional Christmas elements. And they're going to be family services, 45 minutes long. And they're supposed to be fun.
Yeah, they're not gloomy and dreary.
Correct.
I hope to make it, but I may be in Corsicana at a Christmas Eve service with my mom.
Okay.
So I'll be in church somewhere, but it depends what the plans are with my mom. My dad passed recently, and so this is going to be her first Christmas without him. So we're going to make sure that whatever she wants, we're going to be there, my sister and I. I prefer traditional for this kind of thing, but we don't do the midnight service anymore. I remember we used to do that.
Hey, if you want to lead it,
Yeah, that's right.
You're free to come and
Come
back at midnight.
I remember I had good memories of it because Hayden and I would help prepare the Lord's Supper that they had, and then afterwards clean up, and we'd get home about 3.
Yeah.
But there was like a service at 9 and a service at midnight, and so between that, there was only one place in town that was open. Can you guess what it is?
No.
Waffle House.
Oh yeah,
Waffle House. They never close, right? And you go in there, and it's really touching because you're seeing some people in Waffle House
on Christmas Eve.
Eve at 11 o'clock.
They're not there by choice.
Yeah, and so it was almost like an additional opportunity for ministry.
Yeah,
and
that's cool. Well, I'll tell you, the most crowded service we're going to have is the 4 p.m. modern service.
Sure.
Based on the data from the past few years, probably going to have overflow set up for that one. So if you're looking for one to attend where you're not guaranteed to find a good spot, but there'll be a spot somewhere. 3 modern, 6 traditional. Those are the ones to.
Yeah, and you got to work off the 4 of them, don't you?
Yeah, I'll be there all day.
See, that's one big reason why I didn't want to get into the ministry. I like my Sundays and holidays off.
Yeah.
It's like, hurry up, the Cowboys about to kick off.
There are a lot of churches that don't do a Christmas Eve service anymore, but they'll do a Christmas service of some kind, but it'll be the Saturday before.
Because everybody's gone, right?
So many people do things on Christmas Eve.
Well, I know, but we still should have it because, like you said, there's a lot of people that don't have anywhere to go on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. As far as like a typical Sunday, what's the schedule for the people listening? Said, hey, I want to go to your church.
Oh, goodness, yeah. So we changed our service times back in September. So we have 8:30 traditional service. And then we have a 9:45 modern and an 11 o'clock modern.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty evenly attended right now.
That's good.
Yeah, we are from this time last year, we're up, I think, 30% in our numbers. And so we're running a little over 1,000 people across 3 different services right now.
I think a lot of that has to
we also have Spanish. Sorry, we have Spanish.
Oh, yeah, we do. That's right.
12:30.
That's right.
Don't want to forget them. So we have Spanish service at 12:30.
And they're very active.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because, a lot of the Latin American countries, of course, are heavily Catholic. But I go over to CFNI, a third of their students are Brazilian.
Oh, wow.
All right. I'm not teaching at CFNI. I'm DBU, and they're taking college credit courses because they want to transfer to DBU again eventually. But over a third of it is Brazilian. I walk through their student center and I don't understand a word they're saying. And I asked them about it, and I read about it too. And I mean, Brazil is just exploding.
Interesting.
Just blowing up on the evangelical side. They say at the current rates, they'll be the predominant part of the population in about 20 years.
So I've heard that the south of the equator is exploding right now.
Well, and the other
with the gospel,
another large contingent are Colombians, and I had a couple of Mexican students, but I don't think they're the largest component. But some from South American. But anyway, I digress. I think we only have one nonprofit thing. I know they have over at the Lost Rustic Creek Ranch. The Center for ASD is having their program from 6 to 11. It's going to help benefit Toys for Tots. I'll be interested if I'm better. I'm going to go to my B&I meeting tomorrow, and I'll find out how successful it was. But I know that they work through Harvest House, they work through a local church, and they work through the Crowley House of Hope. And that's a big deal. And as far as we're going at Promises, I got to hand it to us. I'll go ahead and brag on our church.
Come on.
When I don't know if Chris made this appeal or who made this appeal, but the church really stepped up and have really stocked the pantry over at Promises. Because I walked in and, Rob and I support it. And I said, what do y'all need? And he said, well, we're pretty good, actually. I mean, whatever you bring, we'll be glad to have, but we're not having a shortage of certain things. But I remember back in the summertime and early spring or late spring, I'd walk in there and the shelves are very empty.
Yeah.
And so I go and I buy a bunch of canned food and bring it in. I'm thinking, I'm here to save the day. It was gone in about 4 hours.
It's a drop.
Yeah.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I went by there last week, they had 4 rows of chairs, every one of them full, and a couple of people standing.
And it's not because the need has declined. I'll say that. It's not because less people need food.
Mm-hmm.
Our church really has stepped up. And every time that I look at the little drop-off area inside the lobbies, it's full of those orange bags for people dropping off food. It's been incredible to see.
Well, I'm glad we because it was brought to my attention about this TikTok about how this woman was calling churches on an emergency basis.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, I've seen it.
Now, I'm going to be, I'm not going to say it might be bogus. It may be something that was created for a purpose to be critical of the church. But let's just assume it was legit.
Yeah, done in good faith.
Yeah. That was a terrible representation. And I'm glad our church, at least I could feel good about the fact that we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the need it seems like it gets worse and worse. And I talked to Elizabeth Becker at House of Hope. I talked to Amber Case over at Harvest House. Of course, our friend Debbie's leaving us.
Our director. Yeah.
And they just say that the numbers just kind of keep escalating upward and upward.
Yeah, it's probably following the same line and trend of inflation right now. I mean, prices are getting outrageous. It's tough.
2 months ago, I was pulling up some stuff, and there was a lady coming out, and she struck up a conversation. Oh, you bringing food in? And I said, yeah, I bring it in. Here, why don't you take some? And she was so excited to get something for, they had a special on at HEB. If you buy a certain number of canned stuff, there's these desserts that come with it. It's when school started. So Rob and I got like 25 desserts free. They were pudding cups. And she was so excited to get a couple of those for her kids. And I thought, it's pudding cups.
Yeah.
But she's so excited about that. And so that stuck with me a little while.
Yeah, it will.
So
yeah, I think a lot of people are blind to not on purpose, but just there's a massive need in our community, in Johnson County, in Burleson. There are a lot of our neighbors who are struggling.
Oh, that reminds me. I don't want to put you on the spot on the air, but after we're done here, I'm going to encourage you to invite this particular program to our church.
Okay.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Yesterday I had Colin Gregory and Joe Byram from Burleson PD, and we did a program, and in fact, we've had 2 of them, part 1 and 2, about sexual predators online.
Oh, I've talked with him already.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
okay.
We're communicating about that.
Rock and roll. All right, you get them on our church, buddy, because I don't think a lot of us, particularly us older folks, have any idea what's going on. I have some idea because of my former career, but I think a lot of people have no idea what's going on. So you get Gregory on there because we need him on there. And I don't know if it's like a Wednesday night thing or something like that, or a Sunday night thing.
Yeah,
something like that. I'm not asking you to kick services off the.
No. Yeah. I think this is a in my mind, I see it as a Wednesday night or a Sunday evening thing, and working closely with our children's ministry, student ministry, and because that's the key demographic and target for people. And so,
right.
The little that I've heard, it makes me never want to hand an electronic device to my children.
Well, if you have a chance to listen to yesterday's podcast, you will be reaffirmed in that commitment. All right. And the one I had with him about 2 weeks ago was, I left shattered. Driving home is like, how is this possible? And we're not talking about far away New York City or something like that. We're talking about in Burleson, in our community, in this county, both producers and consumers of this vile trash. And it's so we need to know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're working it out. So I'll definitely be there for that. I don't know. I think our church will benefit from it a lot. I think they'll be shocked, particularly as older coots. So anyway, next week on Monday, it's going to be me ranting about schooling and is our children learning?
Yeah.
That'll
be a fun one.
It's a George Bush quote, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was campaigning, goes, we got to know, is our children learning?
Oh, great. No child left behind.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I have a mixed opinion of that, tell you the truth. There were some things about that drove administrators crazy, but I do think in some ways it did help improve schooling. And what I've been reading is since No Child Left Behind has been kind of watered down to the point where it doesn't even exist anymore, that's, we've had a marked decline in a lot of the learning. Of course, COVID blew everything up.
Yeah.
And then a week from Thursday, I'm kind of a year-end visit with our friends over at Next Step. Megan and Summer are going to talk about stuff they got going on.
They're always doing great work over there.
Oh boy, do they! They really got a good program. We are so lucky in Burleson. We were so fortunate because there's so many groups like this, and I get to sit here and talk to all of them.
Yeah,
and it's always a great time. I probably talk about 6 of them semi-regularly, and
including Burleson Opportunity Foundation.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
By the way, when's our next meeting? Robin had a medical appointment. I had to miss the last meeting.
Yeah, no December meeting. I think it's second Wednesday of January, which is the 14th.
Well, I'll put it on the schedule. Yeah, Burleson Opportunity Fund. We're going to have a golf tournament this year.
That's right.
Anyway, we'll talk about that next time. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back on with Daniel.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. It'll be great.
Josh, you still awake over there?
Yes, sir.
How'd you like all this sermonizing and just enjoy the whole day, huh?
Yeah, it was good.
Good for you. All right. Y'all take care, and we will see y'all next week.
Bye-bye.